Welcome back to Off the Clock, the show where we spill the tea on employer brand and recruitment without fear or favor. I'm your host, Heather DeLand, employer brand consultant and creative writer, bringing you the very latest in EB and recruitment. And honestly, this week's news is messier than the rad bar after the rads. So let's just rip up the plaster and get into it, shall we? First up, remember when Monster and CareerBuilder were the kings of job hunting and everyone thought uploading your CV to their database was going to change the recruitment game forever? Well, those days are officially over. CareerBuilder and Monster filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection this week, less than a year after merging in what can only be described as the corporate equivalent of two drowning people trying to save each other. According to Reuters and CNN Business, the companies are selling off their assets to various buyers. JobGet is picking up the job board business, while Valnet is scooping up Monster Media Properties. It's like watching your childhood toys get sold off at a yard sale. The merged entity blamed the filing on challenging and uncertain macroeconomic environment, which I think is corporate speak for LinkedIn ate our lunch, Indeed took our dinner, and TikTok is now apparently where people find jobs. So yes, the platforms who were among the first to change the way we apply are no more. RIP to the OG job boards. You gave us hope, spam emails, and the false belief that uploading a CV once would solve all our problems. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And speaking of job applications, let's talk about Martin Shaw. Not his real name, but instead the pseudonym made up by Robert Peasnell of People Scout and TMPW to refer to a rather extraordinary candidate who's either the most ambitious job seeker in history or a robot with commitment issues. In a recent LinkedIn post, Robert reports that one employer he's spoken with recently received 120 applications from our friend Martin within just a few days. Clearly some kind of Renaissance man, he'd applied for everything from warehouse supervisor to head of corporate treasury. No imposter syndrome here. Whether Martin's a real person with spectacularly diverse career aspirations or just another AI-powered resume blasting tool remains unclear. But his existence highlights the growing AI arms race in recruitment. Job seekers using platforms like Lazy Apply, Job Copilot, and Sonara to spray applications everywhere while ATS systems fight back by flagging everything as spam. It's like watching a digital game of whack-a-mole, except the moles are CVs and the hammers are algorithms. And you know what? There were real casualties here. Actual humans trying to find actual jobs whose applications get buried under Martin Shaw's Year 4 What I Want to Be When I Grow Up exercise. There's an irony here, I think. In trying to make job hunting more efficient, we've made it so efficient that it's completely inefficient. I think we've reached peak innovation, folks. But there is good news. The global gender gap is now 68% closed, according to the World Economic Forum's 2025 report. But the bad news means that we're still 32% away from equality. And if equal pay is coming then too, then at that rate, we'll get there in just about 134 years. So mark your diaries for the year 2159, when women everywhere will finally be paid fairly. That's probably right around the same time Mars opens its first Gregs. There are a few bright spots, though. A big well done to Iceland for leading the charge for the 15th year running with over 93% of its gender gap closed. Norway, Finland, and New Zealand are also holding strong in the top 5, proving that yes, it is possible to prioritize equality and still have functioning governments. But further down the list, it's all a bit yikes. In many regions, women still face wide gaps in pay, leadership roles, and access to work at all. And here's the kicker. Even in countries where women outperform men in education, that still doesn't translate into equal economic participation. In case you're wondering, this is not about whether women ask for more. Studies show that they do. It's just that the patriarchy patiently waits and then says, "Aw, how adorable." So if you're a girl born this year and dreaming of equality, welcome to the fight, and I hope you're ready to pass that dream on to your granddaughter or your granddaughter's robot assistant. In short, we're not on track. Progress is happening, but only if you squint at the right graphs. Until equal power and pay is treated as a global business norm and not a branding exercise, the gender gap will remain exactly what it is, a design flaw we've all just decided to live with. Now here's a story that'll make every corporate recruiter jealous. The U.S. Army exceeded its fiscal year 2025 recruiting goal with 4 months to spare, even though their goals were 10% higher year on year. U.S. Army Public Affairs reports that the military managed to get 61,000 future soldiers to sign up, with an average per-day enlistment up over 50% from last year. While everyone else is complaining they can't find talent, the Army's over here like, hey, hold my beer! Apparently, when you offer job security, training, healthcare, and actual career progression, oh yeah, and the small matter of potentially being shot at in foreign countries, people are still interested. Who could have predicted that the generation everyone said doesn't want to work would sign up for jobs where quitting early isn't even an option? Sometimes, people will choose clear expectations and genuine benefits over ping pong tables, even when those expectations include the possibility of actual combat. It makes you wonder what civilian employers are doing wrong when people would rather risk their lives than work for them. In other employment news, companies are finally realizing that your college degree in 18th century poetry doesn't help you run a team meeting. According to LinkedIn, 75% of recruiting professionals say skills-based hiring is a priority now among recruiters. Skills-based hiring means focusing on what a candidate can do rather than fancy academic credentials. Translation, your dad was wrong. You can get a job without going $100K into debt. Instead of screening candidates with keywords like MBA, recruiters now use skills assessments and portfolios. The pros? More diverse candidate pools, and as much as a 20% boost in employee retention when roles are filled based on skills. The cons? Well, sorry to be shady here, but recruiters actually have to do their jobs. No more Control F searches for posh schools on people's CVs. You have to evaluate real humans with real abilities, which sounds hard. Almost like a skill. To be fair, without standard credentials, it can be genuinely harder to benchmark applicants. Plus, not all hiring managers are trained to interpret skills tests, which is on their employers, not them. You can see why some people just panic hire their cousin. Considering how much we hear about this on LinkedIn, CIPD newsletters, and a RecFest tent coming soon to a big hot field in the middle of nowhere, skills-based hiring is one that you might want to train your recruiters for. And finally, over 55s are still here, still making eye contact, and still ringing us on the phone when a WhatsApp message would suffice. I thought I told you about this, Aunt Brenda! Yes. It turns out there's a whole silent workforce flying under most companies' radar, employees over 55, who are returning to work in what Leap Create is calling the Great Unretirement. After 500,000 55-plus workers left during COVID, about 15% of those have already returned. The research further highlights how employer brands are ignoring the over 55s, despite this group representing a massive talent pool with decades of experience and institutional knowledge. We saw hints of this trend earlier this year with baby boomers returning to hospitality work. The over 55s aren't just looking for part-time work to supplement their pensions, though. People who simply want to carry on using the skills they've cultivated across their careers are out job hunting while dealing with age discrimination and early redundancies. Including over 55s in employer branding and recruitment efforts carries plenty of potential benefits, including plugging some widening knowledge gaps that seem to be happening across sectors and scoring hires that are less likely to job hop. Bottom line, if your employer brand is only shouting into millennial group chats, you could be missing out on not just a key labor demographic, but also on key skills and retention potential. That's it from me this week. Thanks for tuning in to Off the Clock, and remember, if Martin Shaw can apply to 120 jobs in a few days, maybe your ATS needs to learn the difference between enthusiasm and automation. See you next time. Now back to setting your Slack status to away while your employee ambassadors do all the marketing work for free.